Hey there, Wargamers, Justin the Arm Painter here from Death Ray Designs, and today we're going to be showing you guys how to paint gems. If you're interested in how we achieve the metallics that we've got down here, you can check out our previous video in our YouTube library where I explain how to do gold metallics. In this video, however, we're going to be focusing on painting up the blood gem. Before we get started today, let's go ahead and discuss the paints we'll need to complete this gem. First off, we'll be using Corn Red from Citadel, as well as Evil Sun Scarlet, and Troll Slayer Orange. In addition to these three colors, we will also be using Vallejo Foundation White, but you can use any white you want. Anything will do, just thin it down a little bit. And then finally, we'll be utilizing the Agrex Earthshade Wash from Citadel as well. Now that we've got our paints gathered, it's time to lay down some color. The first color we're going to be applying today is Corn Red. Make sure to apply 2 thin coats if necessary, and be particularly careful not to touch the other colors we've laid down, in this case the gold. If you happen to make a mistake though, clean off your brush and come in and tidy up the edges as quickly as possible, and if necessary, come back in with a little bit of gold or whatever color to touch up the edges as well. Remember, we don't make mistakes, happy little accidents. Alright, so with our 2 thin coats down, it's time to let this dry. I think that's looking pretty good, but once it's dry, we'll come back for our next step. With our blood drop now dry, it's time to apply some Agrex Earthshade Wash. We're going to be applying this today with one of our crappy wash brushes, not one of our good brushes. Remember, have the right tool for the job. When we begin applying this wash, we're going to be focusing on the gem specifically and where it meets right up with the gold. We want to get that nice transition and that dark edge right up against the recess. It's okay here if the wash is pooling around the edges, just make sure that you're getting a nice transition on the gem and a nice crisp dark edge right up where it meets the gold. Play around here. If you find that you've applied a little bit too much, you can clean off your brush and come back in and use the capillary action of the brush to pull off some of that wash. Once we're satisfied with the wash we've laid down, it's time to let this dry. It's important that you let this dry fully before you move on to the next step, because you don't want to pull up any wash that's partially still wet, because it's going to leave weird blotchy areas on your miniature. With our wash now dry, it's time to come in for our next color. Now we're going to be coming back in with our Corn Red to apply another layer here. Now the whole point of this wash is it adds some depth and it adds a little bit of a gradient. So we're going to be coming back in with the original color, but we're going to be focusing on one side. Now it's important when you're doing gems to consider the light source. In this particular case, we're going to be applying this color on the right side of the gem, and our subsequent colors are going to be focusing on this side as well. So we're kind of using that natural gradient we created with the wash to push the depth and push the light source and make the eye think it's seeing something that looks kind of like a shiny gem. When you're applying this, make sure you apply a thin layer, apply multiple layers if necessary. Don't cover the whole gem. You're trying to focus on one side and leave the other side dark, and you also want to make sure you don't touch the original colors we laid down for the rest of the piece. In this case, you don't want this to touch the gold. If you feel the intensity of the original color was not enough, come back for another pass and get a little bit more on the mini. That's one thing you have to consider when you're thinning down paints, is that if it's too thin, it may take multiple coats to build up that color. And that's okay, because in this case, the second pass is going to be a bit more intense than the first one. And that's kind of playing into what we want here, and that is pushing the gradients and creating that depth. Now that we've got our 2 layers of Corn Red here, you can see our nice transition and this bright color on the side. But we're going to let that dry, and once that's ready, we'll come in for the next color. Now that our Corn Red is dry here, you can see that it's a little less saturated going down this side of the gem, but we've got the dark area here and the light on this side. To help further push this depth, we're going to be coming in with another color here, and that is our Evil Sun Scarlet. With our Evil Sun Scarlet here, we're going to be kind of tracing the previous layer, which was our Corn Red. And we're going to be following where it went, but we're going to try and not go all the way to the top and not all the way down the bottom. Essentially, we want to leave some of that Corn Red exposed and kind of put this Evil Sun Scarlet inside of it. And that's going to help give us that transition, that gradient, and help push the depth on this gem. I like to go down to the bottom here and create a little bit of a crescent though, because I think that's really cool and it helps push the curvature or the round nature of the gem, and also lenses. This is looking pretty good here. I think we're at a stopping point for this color, but remember, we're going to focus the intensity on the bottom. So if you're having to apply multiple layers, that's where you really want to focus so you can get that depth and create that gradient. And we'll be coming back in here with our next color as soon as this is ready, and that's going to be our Troll Slayer Orange. With our previous step now dry, it's time to come in with our next color, which is Troll Slayer Orange. Now this is going to be a little bit of a lesson in layering, in that we are continuing to build up these colors one inside the other. Now it's important to note we're going to be focusing on the edge here, same way we did with the previous colors, but we're going to be applying it inside the previous layer. So we laid down our Corn Red, we laid down our Evil Sun Scarlet, and now our Troll Slayer Orange inside of those. It's important to leave some of those previous colors exposed. It's important to not go all the way to the top of this color, and also not all the way down to the bottom. You want to focus down on that crescent where the light is going to be really intense. With our Troll Slayer orange now dry, we can really see that transition from dark to light, where we've used the red and the orange colors to push the gradient on the gem, but there's 2 steps left that we can apply to really push this to the next level. The next step is going to involve using some white. For this particular step, I am going to be switching brushes. I'm going to be using my Artist Opus 000. It's got a really fine tip, and on this particular gem, we're going to be focusing down here on the bottom side of this crescent, and I really want to get a nice fine white line down here, and I find using the really small paintbrush here gives me a lot of control for getting these fine lines right here. This next step here though is really going to tie all these colors together and help bring everything to a point with a bright light source. Now as you can see on the back of my thumb here, if we got too much paint on our brush, we can drag it very gently across the back of our thumb, and that helps get paint off and form a point. As with our previous steps, we are applying this in a very, very thin manner, light touch, just inside of our previous layer. We don't want to cover up all the orange and red. We want to leave that showing. We want a really, really fine white line here at the base of this crescent. This is where the light's really going to provide that glint. It's going to look really bright, and it's really going to help sell the effect. With our crescent down here at the bottom of the gem now complete, we're almost finished. We're going to come in with a little bit more white on the opposite side of the gem though, to kind of get the luster and the glint of light that's hitting this gem. It's going to really push that depth. Now if you watched our tutorial that showed how to paint the metallics, we really focused the light source with light from the top, the dark recesses, and we really focused all the bright lights on the edge of these feathers. And we're going to be trying to utilize that same kind of effect on this gem by getting a really bright hot spot on the opposite side of the white crescent we made at the base. This is going to help provide an additional light source, and it's really going to help push the depth and the 3D nature of the gem. To achieve this, we're going to come in, we're going to put a little dot here at the top. Be careful not to hit the gold. And then now we've got that one dot, we're going to come in and apply one more just under it. Gems in particular, when I apply my second dot here, I like to drag the highlight down the edge of the gem just a little bit. If I was working on the lens, I would generally do one large dot and one slightly smaller, but in this case I like to follow the curvature a little bit because I think it helps push the 3D depth. With our white now applied, we can see we've got our transitions. We've got our light at the bottom, our dot at the top, a little bit of a glint of light on the left side as well, and this is looking pretty good. But we do have one step left to really make this gem shine. For the next step here, we're going to be applying some gloss varnish. I like to use the varnish from Liquitex. Now this is a little bit pricey, but you can utilize your 40% off Hobby Lobby coupon. If you aren't using that app, make sure you download it, and you can save some cash. This is particularly useful because for the price, you get a heck of a lot of volume when compared to the Citadel gloss varnish options. With our gloss varnish here, we're going to be coming in and focusing on this gem. We're going to be paying particular attention to focus only on the gem and not hit any of the gold. I find that applying matte or gloss varnish to our golds can kind of affect the sheen that you get, and I am particularly fond of the luster that we've got on these wings, so I want to protect that and preserve it. So again, we're going to be focusing thin coats on the gem and not touch that gold. This is really going to add a nice shiny layer and go really well with the transitions that we already got with the oranges, reds, and whites that we applied earlier. With our gloss layer now applied, the only thing left to do is to allow this gem to dry. I really enjoy applying gloss varnish over our gems and lenses because it adds a natural shine or sheen that pairs really well with the luster of the gold that we've applied to these wings as well. Looks really great.
Alright, with that gem now dry, I think we're going to call this piece complete. If you're interested in knowing how we achieve the gold effects on this particular piece, make sure you check out our video library over on YouTube. We've got a tutorial explaining how to do that. If you happen to use these effects on any of your miniatures, make sure you check us out on Facebook, our Facebook group, The Tap Garrison, or maybe consider even tagging us on Instagram. We really do like engaging with you guys, and we love seeing the hobby miniatures that you're working on, and we'd love to see what you do with our techniques or how you might adapt it to make it your own. So share with us. If you have any suggestions, critiques, or ideas on how we can improve, content you'd like to see us work on, or techniques you'd like to showcase, make sure you sound off in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you guys. We really do like the engagement, and we check out the comments that everyone leaves. If you haven't already, we'd like to encourage you guys to like and subscribe. Ding that little bell so you get alerts when our content goes up. And if you haven't already, make sure you check us out on deathrowdesigns.com. Anything you do over there helps keep the lights up and keeps me employed and allows me to produce content for you guys. It's been an awesome journey so far. I hope you guys have enjoyed hanging out with me. And as always, happy wargaming.